What is going on, my fellow Haradrim? Ember here with another one for you. Today I have a new and interesting way to compare and contrast a couple of the top classes right now in Diablo 4. But before we get into it, head down below this video, absolutely obliterate that like and subscribe button, and don't forget to stick around at the end of the video for an original meme. Alright, so today we are going to take a Bone Spear Necromancer, and we're going to take it head-to-head against a Twisting Blades rogue build. These are two of the most popular builds here in Diablo 4 for PvE, and that's where we're going to keep them. We are going to run headfirst into some Hell Tides with 5 criteria in mind: boss damage, crowd control, synergy, ease of use, and survivability. I'll be rating each of these criteria on a scale from 1 to 5, so we will have 1 be the lowest, the worst possible outcome you can have for that set of criteria, and 5 being the best. Additionally, I will not be breaking down either of these builds. Instead, I will be leaving a link to the videos that I found for them in the description below. I'm pretty much following them to a T. Now that we have all that out of the way, do be sure to let me know if you do enjoy this format in the comment section down below. But otherwise, without further ado, let's get to it. Getting into the rogue boss DPS, we're going to be going against Helltide commanders here for that, and even with a buddy, you can see the rogue Twisting Blades, it absolutely lives up to its expectations, dealing huge damage to those bosses. And as long as you are using your abilities correctly, you have some insane sustain DPS. Overall, there's just really no denying the sustain, the DPS that this build has, so we're going to go ahead and give it a 5 out of 5 for boss DPS. And you can see the Necromancer has a little bit of trouble keeping that essence generation up. Otherwise, the burst DPS, the burst damage you have, is pretty huge. Let's go ahead and let the Necromancer deal with this boss. We'll come back to him in just a sec. And as far as crowd control and synergies go, I'm going to combine them both into this one clip here for each class because it is really hand in hand. We're going to see just how these kits work together and the synergies that our crowd control abilities have for this rogue. You really cannot overstate it. I mean, they just excel at knocking enemies down and dealing big damage. So when it comes to crowd control rogue, once again, 5 out of 5 for sure. And each ability is absolutely essential to making this build pop off how it does. So the synergies are absolutely there. Everything in the kit works together to deliver an experience that is just special for sure, and we'll get into some of the other drawbacks later, but I mean, it just speaks for itself. Let's check back in with the Necromancer and see how he's doing with that boss fight. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and give him a 3 out of 5. He's trying his best, but you know, it doesn't really work out for him as well as the rogue. It's about 5 times slower than the rogue is going. Once again, crowd control and synergies are going to be kind of mashed together almost in this clip for the Necromancer because you really can see how it all works together right away. And so going with the ad clear on it, I mean, you do some serious work, especially with, you can hoover up all those enemies with the corpse tendrils. I mean, it's just a whole lot of fun. You really don't have to pay attention to a whole lot other than, you know, where are my corpses around and is my corpse tendrils off cooldown. So for ad clear, we're going to go with a 4 out of 5. It does great work, but certainly the rogue definitely does it better. And for kit synergy, we're also going to go with a 4 out of 5. Blood Mist is great, but you're not using it all that often. And as far as the ease of use for the rogue goes, it's not super easy to grasp everything that you're supposed to be doing and exactly where you're supposed to be doing it. You definitely have to put some thought behind each of the decisions that you make. Where do you think enemies are going to be grouped up the most? How do you get them to be grouped up and fall into your traps? When is the right time to dodge? When do you teleport behind an enemy? You know, how to use those to stay alive, and really max out all that potential you get from the build. So that is definitely one worry that you have when you're rocking a build that can dish out the DPS that this one can. And don't think for a minute that any of these monsters aren't just waiting, frothing at the mouth for you to make a mistake, for you to dodge somewhere you should not, or just to be out of dodges and maneuverability in general. You definitely have to stay on top of it. Pay attention to what you're doing and where you're going. Of course, once you do get down the whole loop that this build has to offer, you do some silly DPS to monsters of all kinds, to big groups, everything like that. They really can't handle what this has to offer when you do get it down, but there definitely is a big learning curve to getting all of these things right the first time, because if you don't, chances are you're gonna get punished, and we'll talk about that when we get into survivability here. So as far as the rating that we're going to give this one here, I'm going to go with a 3 out of 5. It is tough to get down. It's not the hardest build to, get everything to work properly, because it is, once you do get it down, it's kind of easy. But getting that first, what am I supposed to do? How can I do it best? Definitely there's a learning curve there. So once again, 3 out of 5 on that ease of use. Now, following up with the Necromancer's ease of use, it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Step 1, throw a bone spear. Step 2, hoover everything up in the area with a corpse tendrils. And step 3, throw another bone spear and repeat. If you need essence, use blood mist to trigger corpse explosion. You'll get tons of essence back from that. If you're gonna die, throw out your ultimate, the swirling bone storm, and you will find yourself sitting pretty. It's real easy to get down, and there's not a lot that an enemy can do to you if you have all of your cooldowns. So 5 out of 5. Let's talk survivability for the rogue. So getting a critical strike with the rogue will give you some health back, and so knocking down tons of enemies with the poison traps will give you lots and lots of health back, because you'll be throwing those twisting blades around. You're kind of stabbing everything, getting those blades to come back and swirl around you. But if you are not careful, you can run into a situation like this. Bam, insta dead. You went from basically 3/4 of your health all the way to instantly dead. So you have to pay attention to what's around you. If you don't, you will absolutely get punished. Don't get caught with your abilities all on cooldown. However, since the rogue can get health back pretty easily, we're going to go ahead and give it a 4 out of 5 for survivability. As far as the Necromancer goes, you pretty much have 2 abilities that make you immortal for a certain amount of time. The Bone Storm, we have a legendary ability that's going to give us a barrier when we use it. So as long as it's hitting enemies, we're generating barrier. We're basically immortal. And even if that does not work, which I really don't see it ever not work, you still have your blood mist that you can default to. Anytime you just pop that, and then you are golden for 4 or 5 seconds to throw corpse explosions off, gather blood orbs, get your health back, all of that good stuff. So survivability with the Necromancer is absolutely not a problem, and for that reason we are going to be giving it a 5 out of 5 for survivability. And before we reveal the final results, let's go ahead and throw that meme up on the screen. And finally, after tallying it all up, the Necromancer, with a possible score of 25 at the end of the day, has scored 21 possible points, which is pretty huge. I mean, it is one of the greatest builds for Necromancer currently, and as a Necromancer main, I have been enjoying myself thoroughly with it. And the Rogue, not too shabby as well. We're going to end up scoring the Rogue a 22 out of 25. Really, what puts it over the top is the damage. The damage is just too great to ignore. It definitely overcomes a lot of its shortcomings, and I can really see why this build is one of the most popular builds in Diablo currently. I hope you all enjoyed this new format for Diablo videos. I certainly had a ton of fun making it. Let me know by hitting that sub button if you enjoyed it as well. Hit me in the comment section if you have a couple of builds that you'd like to see go head to head. And until next time, be without form, swift as lightning.